Welcome to the Electric Wire Podcast. We bring you news and views on the most pressing issues facing Wisconsin's electric industry, from policymakers, executives, and customer and environmental advocates. Bringing you these discussions, we are the Customers First Coalition. Here's your host, Executive Director Kristin Gilkes.
All right, welcome everybody to the Electric Wire Podcast. I'm your host, Kristin Gilkes, and for this 2021 Wisconsin Energy Year in Review Roundtable, I am joined by our special Year in Review crew. We're bringing back the gang from last year. So today I am joined by Carrie Templeton, who is the Chief of Staff to Public Service Commission of Wisconsin Chairperson Rebecca Vach. Welcome, Carrie.
Thanks, Kristin. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. We've got Chris Hubbuch, an energy reporter for the Wisconsin State Journal, among other topics.
Hi, thanks for inviting me back.
Thanks, Chris. We have Heather Allen, who is the Executive Director of Renew Wisconsin. Welcome, Heather.
Hi there. Can't believe it's the end of the year.
I know, it's gone really fast. And we also have Matthew Spencer, who works in government affairs for Madison Gas and Electric. Welcome back, Spence.
Hey, Kristin, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be back again.
Thanks everybody for being here. So let's jump right into it. We're going to talk about our favorite Wisconsin energy stories of the year. And Spence, let's start with you.
So MG&E had a bunch of fun announcements in 2021, ranging from so early in 2021, the Columbia Energy Center announced that its retirement. Approximately 2/3 of MG&E's coal-fired generation will be eliminated by 2025 with that retirement. And then in the more recent past, the Elm Road Generation Station announced that it will be transitioning away from coal. So as a company, we will be eliminating our coal from our energy source by 2035. I've mentioned this, I think, every single time I'm on the podcast, that we have a net zero carbon goal by 2050. Obviously, eliminating coal is important to our customers. It's important to us. And with those retirements, we have a number of renewable energy projects that are before the commission. We have the Darien Solar Facility. We have the Paris Battery Park Facility, Red Barn Wind Farm, and the Koshkonong Energy Center. So it's a lot of fun things for the company. We're happy to get coal off the grid as fast as we can.
Well, in addition to everything that Matt was just sharing, which are all very exciting announcements, I would add that Point Beach Solar coming online in September of this year was a big advance for us, adding another 100 megawatts, which is still a big part of our solar portfolio here in Wisconsin. So that's huge. And I would also say probably an under-recognized story last year, but it was a very big deal for solar businesses in Wisconsin, is that when the National Solar Jobs Census came out in May of 21, we learned that despite the pandemic, solar jobs held steady throughout 2020, which is a really big deal for the industry in Wisconsin. It was really, really good news for us. So seconding the coal retirement announcements and bringing online these new projects and energizing Point Beach, I think it was a really good year for solar, especially.
I'll just add to that too. In our podcast last year, I mentioned the commission had approved 478 megawatts of solar. And then this year it's over 630 megawatts in 2021. It's almost 150 megawatts more solar in 2021 than 2020. And we already have over 600 megawatts pending in applications for 2022. And we're not even into the new year yet. So that trajectory continues to increase. So that clearly was a big story and a big area of focus for the commission. We'll continue to be really busy, record-breaking a number of cases in 2021. And continuing on the theme of the transition to zero carbon, the commission opened a generic docket called the Roadmap to Zero Carbon, to look at the various pieces in one place instead of individual docket by docket that comes to the commission. So we'll be seeing a lot more related to that docket, especially right at the beginning of the new year. There's going to be a workshop on performance-based regulation in January.
Very excited for that one. Thanks, Carrie. How about you, Chris?
Kind of piggybacking on Matt's, it's not just MG&E. We're really basically looking at the end of coal. for Wisconsin, and with especially with Columbia, and then with WEC's announcement that they're going to. I think they said that coal would be immaterial. Their use of coal would be immaterial by 2030. Means there's really just one small plant left in Wisconsin that doesn't have a retirement or repower date to it. So that's a big milestone for a state that's been really heavy dependent on coal for a long time.
That's very true. All right, Chris, I'm going to stick with you for the next question. What were the top sustainable energy developments of the year for you?
Hard to pick one. I think, like Carrie mentioned, it's almost hard to keep track of the PSC's approvals. I mean, they've approved so many solar projects. If I had to pick one, I would say maybe the giving Alliant the green light for like a $925 million solar investment in 6 plants. That's pretty substantial and a big piece of their decision to close Columbia.
Thanks, Chris. Spence?
I think last year I talked about a few of the smaller solar projects that we have within Dane County. One of them being the O'Brien Solar Fields. It's a 20 megawatt solar facility in Fitchburg that's going to serve several large customers in our service territory. It's part of the RER program. And then we're also working with the city of Madison, the school district of Madison, on a RER program to serve the city and to serve the school district, which is, it's going to help the city reach its carbon reduction goals, helps us achieve our carbon reduction goals. And, I said the same thing last year, but these small projects also play a bigger part. The large ones that I mentioned before, by 2023, those projects are expected to help power more than 26,000 households in our service territory. And then thousands more across the state, because we only own a portion of them. We co-own with another utility in Wisconsin, Microgrid Energy Group. So, I mean, every little bit helps for us.
I think my first is Forest Edge Elementary School in Fitchburg. It's a net zero school. We got a chance to tour that facility on our annual bike ride, where we actually did stop by MG&E's O'Brien Solar Farm, which was beautiful and seamlessly fits into the landscape. But this net zero school really shows that if you can plan a building from the ground up, you can put in all these older and new technologies that can put together an entire school system that is not need at all natural gas connection, which is a big step forward. And this school, if you have a chance to see it, has technologies like window glazing that changes color to let in certain amounts of light and heat with the touch of a button. It's really, really fascinating, and really extensive geothermal loops. So I just loved seeing that. And I think the other stories that I am paying really close attention to are the development of microgrid programs through the Office of Energy Innovation, the Bad River microgrid, which is definitely one of the biggest in the state now, and that's up and running. And then Excel's program to promote resiliency with its commercial customers through integrating their energy generation, renewable energy generation, and energy storage systems into part of Excel's managed relationship with their customers in the grid. And I think as we move into the grid of the future, more and more programs like that are going to become really important to help Wisconsin survive and manage extreme weather events, but also manage our grid more efficiently. So I'm excited about all the integration of the new types of technologies that allow us to shift to clean energy more expeditiously.
Heather, I was thinking along the same lines, and I was going to mention the Energy Innovation Grant Program at the PSC. There were some really exciting projects that came about from the grant program, including a number focused on resiliency and dealing with the effects of climate change and some of these severe weather events. I think we're going to see more of those, including microgrids, going into the future. But there were all kinds of projects. There were 32 projects funded, and we actually put a plug in. Our next grant round is open right now, and the applications are due in mid-January. So we're excited to see what else comes about, because innovation will be key in the transition in getting to zero carbon.
All right, let's move on then to the top energy ideas of the year. Carrie, did you want to get us started on that?
Sure. And this one, I hearken back to some of what we talked about in 2020 and how expenses from COVID and affordability for customers is going to be a big issue in 2021, and it definitely was. We had utilities apply for and put in place arrearage management forgiveness programs, which were really exciting, and then partnering with utilities on other tools to help customers weather COVID. And then the commission is also taking a renewed look at energy burden and required the largest utilities to do an energy burden analysis, so we can really dig in and talk about affordability for customers as we go through the energy transition. And it's one of the key components of the roadmap to zero carbon that we'll be looking at. And I think it dovetails with some of the issues related to equity and diversity from 2020 into 2021, in ensuring everyone has access to affordable energy. So we're pretty excited about that. And I was excited to see that since I started in consumer affairs at the commission, it kind of gets back to my roots there.
Great, thanks, Carrie. Spence, you want to go next?
Sure, and it's sustainable energy too. You know, it's the fastest way, the cleanest way is the utility scale solar, and the equity piece is there with that. For top ideas for us, we were looking at batteries both at the utility scale with a few of the new projects that have been proposed, and then also at the residential level. We're testing residential battery storage. There's several homeowners in the Madison area that have a battery system outside their home. We're looking at how we can best use that. But I just think that, you know, first it was you know, how do we make solar affordable? Solar became affordable, and the next thing is going to be batteries, and how do we make batteries affordable and useful at the utility scale and at the residential level as well. So those are just two. I mean, I have a couple more, but I'm sure I'll save them for later in these discussions.
Got it. Thanks. Chris, you want to share?
So wanted to give the legislature some credit for thinking, I guess, a little differently about this. We've seen a number of bills, community solar bill, third-party solar ownership bill, a pair of EV bills. I know that some of these aren't necessarily, you know, so popular with the utilities, but these are issues that have been kicked around and wrestled with for a while, with, you know, the PSC not really quite wanting to wade in to the ownership issue. So the legislature is kind of taking that up, and interesting that these are all Republican bills. So I mean, they actually have some chance of passing.
So looking back at your 2021 predictions, what actually happened and what shocked you from this year? Heather, we'll start with you.
So in my infinite wisdom, I underestimated Congress, and I said that Congress would not extend this solar tax credits. And they did, and former President Donald Trump signed them before the end of the year in 2020, right before the end of the year. And so that was great news. That was great for the industry. I think we were shocked again this November when Congress passed the $1.2 trillion Infrastructure and Jobs Act, and that is providing billions of dollars for electric vehicles, microgrids, shoring up the electric grid. All of that money will be coming into Wisconsin to help strengthen the infrastructure to build charging stations and support transmission and distribution lines and microgrids, which is exciting. And so we still haven't reached approval or passage of Build Back Better, which would be even more investment in these areas, and extend tax credits further, make the tax credits available to more types of entities, non-taxable entities like tribal groups, nonprofit organizations, congregations, really reaching into new parts of our communities that haven't been able to access those tax credits, which makes solar so much more affordable, and expanding the applicability of those tax credits to new technology. So we're really seeing a lot of progress on the financial mechanisms that can help advance and accelerate renewable deployment. And I have to thank Congress for that. I got it wrong, and I'm really happy to have been wrong, and I hope to continue to be wrong, and that they pass Build Back Better, and that Wisconsin sees the benefit, the billions of dollars of investment. In fact, this is a little known fact about Build Back Better, but if that does pass, there are significant funds in there to help manufacturers green their industry, reduce their own emissions. And we have a number of manufacturers in Wisconsin who make a variety of different types of things. And if they can invest those funds in their operations and reduce emissions, that'll help us reach our carbon roadmap goals, but also help those businesses save money and make them more competitive in the global marketplace. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Carrie, you want to go next?
I picked a non-energy issue as one of my predictions last year, and that was broadband, and said it was going to be a big year. Little did I know, in a few short weeks, the governor would declare 2021 the year of broadband. And like Heather, I had no idea Congress was going to allocate, hundreds of $millions to the states. And the PSC was given $100 million of the CARES Act funds from Governor Evers for broadband deployment, and the commission awarded those funds earlier this fall, and will connect another 50,000 customers to broadband. So we're really excited about that, and the pace is not going to slow. There's more funding, more opportunity. The work is not done. We're not at the finish line yet, but we have a path in sight for that. So broadband will continue to be a big issue at commissions and other commissions too. It's been a big change for us to have broadband dominate a lot of our work. And like Heather said, there's a lot coming to state energy offices and on energy issues to the states. So we'll be seeing a lot of that this year too.
Great, thanks, Carrie. Spence?
Carrie, I think you also predicted that things were at least hoping to be back to normal by 4th of July. So
thanks for the reminder, Spence.
Maybe
I remember that
4th of
too.
July next year. We'll do it.
There was a window this summer where it was good, right?
It was
I
about
did
3
have a
weeks.
normal 4th of July.
Yeah. So I've talked about everything I can on our side, but behind the meter, I think is a step that we're working with our customers. Just like the value of smart thermostats and new technologies behind the meter to reduce costs for homeowners is obviously going to be important moving forward. With the incentives that Focus on Energy can provide, you're seeing technologies that can be purchased for homeowners or apartment dwellers, people of all income levels that can save money and lower their energy bills. In some cases, in most cases nowadays, your smart thermostats are cheaper or on par with, traditional thermostats. So that's one thing that we're working with our customers, and then also with municipalities across our service territory.
So I made the safe pick that COVID would still be a story this year, which it was. Although the utility moratoriums expired, but I noticed the PSC is still kind of wrestling with the question of uncollected or bad debt, and who's gonna pick that up. So that was kind of a safe pick on my part. My shocker for the year, I did not expect ATC to ask for the PSC to rescind its permit for the Cardinal Hickory Creek line. Not surprisingly, the case remains in court, although surprisingly, it is now in 3 courts with, I guess, the state circuit court, federal courts, and now the Supreme Court also taking up at least part of it. So that
how could we forget that shock?
Yeah, that's a pretty good one to include there.
Yeah, no, that was definitely not on my bingo card for.
I have one more shock, and it's a little bit of a shout out to MG&E and to Excel again, actually. Fixed charges went down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big shock. So, or are going,
Yeah, it was a big deal for our customers.
Yeah.
And we're happy to work with the commission on a rate structure. And I know that a lot of people in the Madison area are very happy with that. So
Yeah, by reducing fixed charges, you'll make it'll be more logical and more practical for folks to work on their energy efficiency and go shift to renewables. So I think it's just wonderful news for low income customers who care about their emissions to do that.
All right, let's move on. Did you have a favorite episode of the Electric Wire podcast this year? I can start us off if you want. Sorry to anyone else who wanted to jump in right away. But I was looking back through all of our episodes and it was really difficult to pick a favorite, but I went back to January. We did a really long and detailed interview with Commissioner Ellen Nowak, and followed by an interview with Bill Malcolm from the AARP. And the episode was all about utility regulation. I think we started with the question, why are utilities regulated? And it was really, to me, it was like a 101. And it was a favorite episode of ours. I think it was our most listened to podcast of 2021. And so I think people are just in general interested in that topic. Any of our episodes this year that dealt with utility regulatory issues got the most amount of listens. So I found that pretty interesting. But yeah, I loved that episode and I had to rate it right up there at the top. Also, we did the sort of highlights episode in June. Spence, you joined me for that. I loved that one too, because we were just able to pull some of the funnest moments. Heather, I think you made the list in that one as well. But it was just a lighthearted and fun episode as well, if you're looking to go back and get some of the highlights. Anybody else have favorites they want to mention?
Yeah, I'm going to put a shout out for the solar panel recycling episode, because I think people are really interested in what happens to a solar panel after it's done making energy. And it does have some useful options to be reused or recycled after its life. But I'd also just like to say, shout out on the podcast. I mean, it's been growing and it's fascinating, and I think it really says a lot that you're able to turn like the regulatory structure into a podcast that is the most popular on the site. I think that shows that people are really interested in what we're all talking about, and it's heartening.
Well, thanks, Heather. The episode Heather was referring to was from July of this year, 2021, with Chris Stearns of Cascade Eco Minerals. And I do appreciate you, Heather, for making that introduction with Chris, because that was one of my favorite episodes as well.
Well, Kristin, if you had done one on wind turbine blade recycling, that might have been the most popular. I'm just saying, I'm holding out for 2022.
Thanks for bringing that up, Carrie. Sore spot. We're still working on it, I promise.
I had a couple favorites, and they are regulatory themed. I love when I get to hear commission staff get a chance to talk about what they're doing and working on. So I really liked the ones related to energy assistance with Kristy Nieto and with Barb from DOA, talking about energy assistance and the variety of programs that were going on, because I think there was a lot, and so it was nice to have them walk through all the options. And then Joe Fontaine sort of demystifying what was going on with the roadmap to zero carbon docket and explaining the various pieces and steps to go beyond what the commission was able to discuss in its open meeting. So those were a couple of my favorites, but I did like the one you and Spence did too with the top power moments. That was great.
Thanks, Carrie.
I would say my least favorite are the ones that I'm on, because I don't like to hear my voice, but I did like listening back to the top 10. That was fun to do with you. And then the Loose and Mortars one was very interesting. I think I said this before, but it's like this, as technology advances, it becomes like cool. Like that vehicle is awesome, or it's going to be awesome. But just hearing about a car with 500 plus mile range, and then obviously stuff like that decreases range anxiety, which makes cars more attractive to more individuals. And as cars become more attractive to more individuals, you're going to see more charging infrastructure. And that's what's in the infrastructure package, which is Wisconsin's going to get about $80 million over 5 years. I mean, just everything just kind of ties together. It's all moving down the road, I guess, no pun intended, but that's where we're at.
That's great. Thanks, Spence. And that episode with Daniel Witt from Lucid Motors was in August of this year. And I think what we'll do is we'll put links to all of the favorite episodes in the show notes so you can find them easily. Chris, did you have a favorite?
Yeah, I also was sort of like the Joe Fontaine episode, kind of a deep cut, but it was good to sort of get in behind the scenes a little bit on some of these investigation, open-ended sort of dockets, and get his insight on that. So
I put this on our Facebook page, but my aunt who lives in Boston, hi, Aunt Andrea, she's a regular listener, and she listened to that episode with Joe Fontaine. I mean, knows nothing about the zero carbon docket, and she loved it and described it as wonderfully wonky. So
yes.
I loved that episode as well. And highly recommend for anyone who's looking to really do a deep dive on the zero carbon docket. Let's move on to our predictions for 2022. So who's willing to put themselves out there and make a prediction for 2022, knowing that we're going to get the crew back together again and hold you to it?
I would like to make a prediction, but it's kind of building off what Matt was saying about the federal money coming into Wisconsin for electric vehicle charging. Mm-hmm. With that, and then with the governors signing compacts to collaborate on regional infrastructure corridors, and our work now on the Lake Michigan corridor compact for EV charging, I think 2022 is the year for EV infrastructure in Wisconsin. I think that there's going to be a lot of progress there. The state Department of Transportation and I think Maria Redmond's office are taking the lead on putting together some planning for EV infrastructure around the state. And I think there's finally enough momentum to make real progress on EVs over the next year.
I love that, Heather. And I want to piggyback on that and say my prediction is that somewhere in between Madison and Wisconsin Rapids, which is the only place I really want to drive my Nissan Leaf, which has a 100-mile range, there will be an EV charger in 2022. That's my prediction. I really want to manifest it and hope that it happens. All right. Anybody else with a prediction?
We all have the same idea, because this was my idea too. So we have our fast charge. We have our charging hub coming online. The Tesla superchargers are functional right now. The MGE chargers will be functional by the end of the year. So I hope that we'll see more of these corridors like that throughout the state, and maybe, cross your fingers, like on top of the money that's coming in from the feds, though, we can maybe make use of the VW settlement funds at some point in Wisconsin. Chris, you mentioned that's one of the EV bills that's before the legislature. We're just kind of taking a look at it right now, but it's not just vehicles, it's just electrification in general, things inside your home. You don't have a whole lot of opportunities between now and 2050 when everyone has their carbon reduction goals, but there's only a certain amount of purchases you have between now and then, and hopefully we can work with our customers to electrify.
Well, I'll go out on a limb and say it's going to be another record-breaking year of docket work at the commission. It's going to be busy with a lot more solar in the queue already. As I indicated, we have a few investigative dockets going on related to buyback rates, the roadmap to zero carbon that we mentioned, looking at energy burden, the strategic energy assessment is coming out, quad planning for the Focus on Energy program for the next 4 years. It's going to be a pivotal year, and I'm really excited to work with everyone on moving it forward. So it'll be good. Oh, and have to mention broadband, of course. Broadband.
Yes. Thanks, Carrie. How about you, Chris?
Heat pumps. We're going to be talking about heat pumps next year. And I can say that with some confidence because I'm working on a story. So
Oh.
I love it.
But yeah, piggybacking on what Matt said about electrification. It's a big piece of that puzzle in terms of electrification of buildings, and the technology is not new, but it's taken a lot of there's been a lot of advances. And so, like Heather, you were talking about Forest Edge. I was out there yesterday, just amazing. And they're heating that giant building with heat pump.
Okay, I think that needs to be a podcast episode as well, Chris. So let's
Happy to come back.
You
when we
get
finish
your
my
story to
research.
go viral, and we're gonna like retweet it and help, and then we'll have to do a podcast episode on it to
There we
follow
go.
up.
We'll create our own echo chamber.
Perfect. All right. So now for our last question. You had all the power in 2022. What would you do with it? And we'll start with you first, Chris.
No offense, Carrie, but I would have Wisconsin Eye go and broadcast the PSC meetings and record them and put them on the website, because that would make my life a lot easier.
Would it? I might know a guy.
Chris, your wish may come true. in
Ooh.
2022. I'm
That's
not
great.
promising anything, but
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think we are working on it.
And shout out to Wisconsin Eye, because they do a lot of work, and there are now subscriptions available to Wisconsin Eye for, I think, some archival footage and stuff like that. So make sure you go support Wisconsin Eye, as well as subscribing to your local newspaper.
And podcast.
Yes. Yes. All right. Thanks for that, Chris. Carrie?
If I had all the power, I would love to know what that last 20% is going to be to get us to zero carbon. There's a lot of agreement around the 80%, and we're going to be able to get there with existing technologies and innovations that we know about that are coming. But that last 20% is going to be the nut to crack. And with, the energy innovation grants and other things and the work utilities are doing and stakeholders, I think we're going to get there, but I'd love to know what it is. I'm just dying to know.
Heather, do you want to go? Are you holding out?
Yeah. If I had all the power, I think I would pass Build Back Better tomorrow, and I would get that signed into law. And then I would tee up all of Wisconsin's agencies and stakeholders to write the plan for how we're going to spend that money in Wisconsin, and those billions of dollars to make our state more energy independent and cleaner, and save a bunch of people a bunch of money here in Wisconsin. That's what I would do.
I think that's a really good question. Like how fast are these dollars going to go out the door, and how are they going to be best used by state energy offices and by the commission? And just knowing that there's money there, there's money sitting in the sideline, and it's a lot, whether it's the infrastructure package or the Build Back Better plan. Carrie, you're going to be dealing with broadband for forever. So, forever. So, but as a company, it's always interesting as we decarbonize, like how is our interactions with our customers going to be? So far, they've been very, very good and very positive. Our shared solar program is fully subscribed to, and the only way that we can fully decarbonize is partnering with our customers. So they need to know what we're doing. We're going to do our best to know what they're doing and provide services that help them behind the meter, and we'll do everything we can as their energy provider. So I think everyone kind of hit on the points that I was going to mention, but maybe not the heat pumps, but yeah.
Awesome. So last year on this episode, I said if I had all the power, I would help people understand the value of electricity. And I think it's hard to top that for me, because I think just continuing these conversations about our energy system are so important. And I feel really blessed that we got to do that again this year. And I always love to keep that conversation going. That being said, I'm going to switch it up this year. And I'm going to say that if I had all the power, I would find a subject matter expert to talk to me about wind turbine blade recycling on a podcast episode. And so I'm just like throwing these things out there so I can hold myself to it at the end of the year next year. And then I also just want to go back to that charging station on I-39 around the like Watoma area exits, Highway 21. If anybody is listening, Westfield would be great. So also hoping that if I had all the power, I'd be able to just get that one installed right away. All right, well, that wraps things up for today. Any closing thoughts people wanted to throw in? I know there's a few plugs I wanted to let you all make. So Heather, I wanted you to let everyone know about a big event you guys have coming up in January.
Yes, our annual Renewable Energy Policy Summit is coming up on January 27th, Thursday, January 27th. Mark your calendars, register today at renewwisconsin.org. And I will tell you, we have not one, but 2 sessions covering building electrification. And there will be a lot of heat pump discussion. So if you're interested in that, it's going to be the place to be. And Commissioner Huebner is going to be a keynote. So I think it's going to be soup to nuts, a really great day of energy conversations.
That's awesome. Thanks. Carrie, you guys have an event coming up in January that you mentioned as well, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to give some more information on that as well.
Great. Thanks, Kristin. On January 11th, we're going to be having a performance-based regulation workshop. It's going to be at the PSC at Hill Farms in the morning. We hope folks can make it and share their views on how we should look at structuring incentives as we move forward through the energy transition. It's open to the public. It's structured a lot like the EV workshop we had. So if you attended that, it's going to be pretty similar and bring viewpoints from all sides. So I hope you can make it.
Spence, Chris, you guys got anything?
The last thing, I just want to mention that MG&E recently joined with EEI to a national electric highway coalition, which is committed to quick and convenient electric vehicle charging. So maybe maybe the coalition will help with your charging station on your way up north.
Awesome. Thanks. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And Chris, tell us where we can follow you on Twitter.
Chris Hubbuch, ChrisHubbuch.
Okay.
It's
In
my
addition
Twitter handle.
to everyone
And-
subscribing.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
And Madison.com.
Okay.
Subscribe to your local newspaper.
Yes. Subscribe and follow Chris on Twitter. All right. Thank you again, everybody. It was great to see you all.
Thank you.
Have
Thanks,
a great
Kristin.
new year.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
holidays, and we'll see everybody in 2022.
Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. Please support our work. You can subscribe to the Electric Wire podcast if you haven't already, and you can follow us on Twitter at The Electric Wire. Thanks also to the members of the Customers First Coalition for supporting this podcast. Our members are Dairyland Power Cooperative, Madison Gas and Electric, the Municipal Electric Utilities of Wisconsin, WPPI Energy, Renew Wisconsin, the Citizens Utility Board, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 2150, and the Wisconsin Electric Cooperatives Association. Thanks again for listening. We'll have a new episode next month.